1,000 miles. Why? So I'll tell a little story here. So, I don't know, 2020, probably around March, as stuff started to lock down. Races started to get canceled. Races were a big motivation for me to run. And when they started to get canceled, I looked back and I was looking at my training and seeing what I had done in 2019. In 2019, I'd probably run 500 or 600 miles in the first 3 months of the year because I was training for a 100-miler that was in April. And then my training essentially went to zero. So, end of 2019, I think I had maybe 700 miles, which is pretty sad considering how much I had in the first 3 months of the year. So my consistency was garbage once my race was complete. So kind of coming into 2020, my goal was to lay out a few races spread out throughout the year to really drive that consistency. But as COVID started to hit, that was no longer going to work. So, I don't know, I was looking at my Strava and seeing that you could set a yearly goal. And I thought, 1,000 miles. Roughly 50 weeks in a year, so that's roughly 20 miles per week. That's totally doable for me as kind of a amateur runner. Trying to get about, 3 to 5 runs per week. Totally doable. That's, 3 7-mile runs or 5 4-mile runs. Obviously, I'm going to vary the distance, but that's the average. I'm like, all right, I'm going to set this goal in Strava and see what happens. The funny thing about how our brain works is I didn't tell anyone about it. I didn't tell my wife, who I normally share all my goals with. I didn't tell my kind of running partners, who also I share especially a lot of my running goals with. So why is it? And I think the big thing was I didn't want to let them down. But that 1,000 miles has always kind of been there and been my goal. And so I've been pushing all year long. Probably is my most consistent year overall. There's definitely been ups and downs, kind of as I got that hope that a race would happen again and then it gets canceled. So maybe I run it virtually or something like that. But it's been a challenge to push myself to be consistent without races. So, I'll show kind of the chart of what my month by month has looked like. But you'll see it's kind of up and down. But the consistency is what I've been pushing for. And not every month the same, but avoiding those big zeros where I didn't do anything. So it's been kind of cool. The 1,000-mile goal also pushes you to run throughout the year, to run in, the super hot summer when you can't breathe, or the rainy days when you're just like, don't want to get wet and dirty. On the cold days in the snow. So it's a pretty good goal. I've enjoyed it. It feels like an achievement to set kind of a big goal like that you have to eat in chunks and then to achieve it. Right now, for example, I'm at maybe 930 miles. I have no races on the horizon. I'm not currently on a training plan for anything. I would not run right now if it wasn't for that 1,000-mile goal.
So it's November 30th, and I'm at my goal, 1,000 miles in a year. I still have a month left to spare, but I'm pretty happy with what I've done so far. 178 hours, nearly 22 full work days, running. It took a lot of things. A lot of running when I didn't want to run, running at night, running when I was tired. It took things other than running. It took cross training, making sure my legs were strong. It took shoes, 5 pairs of shoes to be exact, to keep my legs healthy and safe from the impact. It also took food, lots of food. I was burning tons of calories. It also took finding adventure, finding new trails and new things to keep me motivated, seeking out places I've never been, people I've never run with. It took recovery, seeking time to rest, ice my legs, stretch my legs, and I think maybe most of all, seeking beauty, looking for the sunrises, the views that I had never seen before. It also took celebrating the small victories along the way. It also took my friends. They were a huge part of this, keeping me motivated, talking while we were running, exploring new places. And my family. We can't forget them. Probably the most important. The main reason I want to do this type of stuff is to stay healthy so that I can adventure with my boys. And this year, I got the privilege of taking them each on runs with me. And I look forward to many more like that in the future.
For me, the big lesson is find out what motivates you. What is it going to take to get you to really form that habit and to get you out the door running or out the door to the gym or eating better? Start studying yourself. Look back at what it was that motivated you in the past towards success. How do I replicate that? Do I need accountability from someone else? Do I need a reward? You know, what are the little points of success along the way to the big goal that mark you as on the way? But yeah, so why? That's the big thing for me. Find out what your why is. What did we learn? 1,000 miles. Well, the first thing I learned is that it's not about 1,000 miles. It's about finding your why, finding a reason, something that motivates you, that keeps you getting out the door on the cold days when it's hard. So take that time, sit down, think about the times where you succeeded and times that you failed. What motivated you to keep going, to challenge yourself? Whatever it is, whether you're trying to do a 5K, 50K, or 200 miler, find your reason, get out there, and go do it. So, hopefully, this challenged you, it motivated you, and gave you a reason to get out do something. That's my why, and hopefully it can be yours too. Love y'all.